Welcome back. There are people saying the internet wrestling community got worked today. It may have. To me, what likely happened was that Lesnar had walked. They had to rewrite the show, and they had number one contender, all this other stuff going on. To me, it looked like yep. So they're trying to move on, and then Lesnar came out at the end of the show, right? It would not be the first time that we've seen something like this with wrestling. I think that's one of the drawbacks of wrestling not having an actual sporting contract where guys can't just get up and walk out, but they do. Being, independent contractors, there's different guidelines there. Now, it does mean that we'll still get Lesnar versus Reigns at SummerSlam, which is, of course, their big show, and that's what they want. I'm still gonna say what I said in that video stands because Lesnar's there in place of their original plans for SummerSlam, and so he's in there to fight the match rather than the rumored Cody Rhodes match that they were going to do. And then after Reigns, I assume Reigns is going to win, and then after he wins, you still have that same problem. But even if Lesnar wins, let's just say that Lesnar wins. Well, who can challenge him? Roman Reigns. There isn't anybody else who credibly can challenge Brock Lesnar in a one-on-one match. So unless they did like a triple threat, let's say they did a triple threat, it's Riddle, it's Lesnar, and it's Rollins, and then Rollins pinned Riddle or vice versa for the title. It's hard to find somebody who's on that same level. So what I said in the video earlier, outside of Brock, walking out, what are they going to do without him? I still think that's valid. It's still something I've talked about with WWE for a long time. That building up other wrestlers to be on that level is for the best. During the Attitude Era, you had Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and I'm trying to think of who else. So earlier than that, before Kevin Nash went to WCW, I would say Nash slash Diesel was on that level. And so any of those guys against each other, you never really knew what was going to happen. And with Stone Cold, The Rock, never really knew what was going to happen either. And then eventually they made it so that Chris Jericho was in that picture too. So even though Jericho might be smaller than the other guys, you still had the feeling that he might do something underhanded that gets him the title. And so it's important to make sure that you have a company where there's a lot of guys that looks like could be champ, right? Now there'll always be that argument of, well, this guy should get a push, this guy should get a push. The reality is there's only so many hours in a week. There's only so many guys you can push at the same time. And if people had watched wrestling back in the 80s, they would have noticed that some of the better wrestlers actually ended up being guys who were not the winners. They were not necessarily the victors night in and night out. They were very good at selling. They were very good at getting the other guys over. And I think the difference between now and then is that now we see these guys and go, that guy's a really good wrestler. Why does he lose all the time? Because he's there to get the other guys over. The difference also being in this time of social media and everything, we kind of get to know the wrestlers, and so it feels different than it did in the 80s when you had some pretty good wrestlers that were jobbers. They were there to put other guys over. So anyways, I just wanted to do the quick update because I know that with Lesnar showing up, I need to do an update video afterwards. And so here we are, 3 wrestling videos in the same day. I think that's a first on this channel. I'm pretty sure that's a first. And it may very well simply have been a matter of Vince McMahon calling Brock and saying, "Look, I've retired, sure, but I'm still going to be having a say in this company. I'm still going to have a say in what's going down." I haven't heard who was in Gorilla tonight. We'll see, who's in Gorilla and who's really running things. But if it was really Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard that were putting the show together, not much changes. The one thing I will say is, thank God they decided not to have Lacey Evans pushed as a face. I knew that wasn't going to work. They had her in the ring. They had her talk about America and service in the military and being a mom. And I thought this would work in the 80s with a crowd now. It doesn't really win them over. And they naturally want to boo Lacey Evans. So I'm glad they leaned into that. Lacey's a heel, although she needs to start wrestling rather than just coming out and beaking off at the fans. Be nice to see a match. But anyways, there you go. I also hope that at some point Sonya Deville stops losing all the time. But I'm a fan of Sonya Deville's. I think she's a good wrestler. She went out to fight Raquel Gonzalez, and I was like, well, hopefully they give her something. Nope. 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 Nothing. But anyways, there you go. We'll see what happens from here. But it may very well be that Brock fights it at SummerSlam, and then maybe we don't see him again until Mania. They need a full-timer to have the belts. they need to have the belts on the show regularly. They really do. They need to have, whether that means having Roman on the show a little bit more than he is now, whatever it means, you need to have the belts there. You need to have the belts defended. And ideally, if you're going to insist on 2 championship belts, 2 different guys should be champion, one on Raw and one on SmackDown. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Channel's had about 35 new subscribers today, so welcome to those that are new. And hey, I will talk to you guys again soon.